Okay, welcome back, Math 10s. It is time for 5.3, probably the most significant lesson of this unit, one of the more significant units of lessons of this course, actually. And it's called slope-intercept form, or most commonly referred to actually as just y equals mx plus b. This form of a linear equation is extremely useful because you don't have to create a table of values. You can graph these lines very, very quickly once with a little bit of practice by using this form. And it's really simple. That few things we have to point out is that this m right here, that is the slope. We know that. That's our slope, and it's equal to the rise divided by the run. It's a fraction, okay? And then up here, this piece we're going to discover, and I'll show it on Desmos actually in a second. This is always going to be our y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. And a special note is that to use this, right, the main thing is that this y must be isolated. Y must be isolated. In other words, you have to solve for y. So you have to have a little bit of algebra skills here to make sure this can happen. If it isn't in this form, we're going to be manipulating equations to do what we want to do with them. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works. But before I do that, I want to just switch my screen to my to Desmos. I just had it up. Here we go. So let me explain what's going on my screen right now. Over here on the left, you can see I've entered in the general equation y equals mx plus b. Okay. Now, right now I can set m to just be like 1 divided by 1. Okay. And I could set my b to be 1 as well. And now this is just graphing that particular point. But all I wanted to show you here is if I set these values, okay, we can see that the slope is a rise of 1 and a run of 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. It's like a 45-degree line. And my y-intercept is at this point right here, which is at 0b, or b is in this case 1. Now what happens if I just have sliders? And what can happen with a slider, it allows me to show what happens as m changes. As m changes, as it gets bigger, which means in increasing the rise, I get steeper and steeper and steeper. I get a really steep line. And if I go negative, of course, my slope is going to, if I go 0, I'll get the 0 slope. Okay, a horizontal line. And if I go negative, I'll start to get a downward slope, more and steeper and steeper and steeper as I make it bigger. Now, what happens when I change b? Well, the b is simply our y-intercept. So it tells us, you can see, follow the black dot, where it crosses the y-axis. So up here, it's be about 5, and I can move it down here to be approximately -2. And so that's what these two numbers are doing. So it's really easy to graph them by just knowing the slope and the y-intercept, which we can get from this equation. So let's try it out. So here's some 4 different equations. Can we use the slope-intercept form to graph these? So all we have to do is first, let's write this in slope-intercept. So I'm going to write this as a fraction so we can see our rise over run. There's my m. So my m is right here. Okay. And my y-intercept is always including the sign. This is going to be my y-intercept right there. Okay, so the way we plot these is step 1. We're always going to, so where should I write this? Let's just put it here. So step 1, plot the y-intercept. So we're going to go down here. Okay, so this is 0, 0. The y-intercept is going to be right here at +3. And step 2 is we're going to use the slope to get more points. Use slope for more points. Now, again, in general, 3 will do, but let's fill this graph with a few points, okay? So my rise is -4, my run is 1. So my rise, I mean, I gotta go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and a run of 1. So I draw another point. I can go down again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a run of 1. You can reverse this, so I can take this same slope, right, which is equal to -4 over 1. We know that's the same as 4 over -1. I can go the other direction. So I can have a rise of +4 with a run of -1. and we see all my points line up on a straight line. And that's the quick way of plotting lines. No more table of values, okay? No more bed mass. You just use these two numbers, plot your y-intercept, and use your slope to get more points, and we can see that we get our line quite quickly. All right, let's try this one. So here's my m. So my m is right here. There's my m, and right here would be my y-intercept, or namely we call it the b. Okay, so first let's plot our b. Our y-intercept is at -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is right here. And my rise is 3 with a run of 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we see that they line up nicely. Again, I can reverse it. Down 3 to the left, 4. And we get a nice straight line. We can plot that. Again, you can do this much better. It's really hard on this trackpad. All right, draw the line all the way through with arrows. Okay, this next one looks a little bit weird. It just looks like -1/2. So I see an m here. Okay, I see the coefficient in front of my x is -1/2, but I don't see a b. And if it's not there, it's just 0. So in this case, my b is going to equal my y-intercept here of 0. So this crosses right at the origin. So my y-intercept is at 0. And my rise over run this time is down 1, -1 to the right 2, down 1 to the right 2. And you can keep filling in more points if you want, fill the whole graph, and I can reverse it. I think this really helps me right now because it is so hard to draw these lines so straight. And let's see if I can do this one a little bit better. There we go. Not bad. Okay. And the last one here, it's a bit tricky because remember I said you have to isolate y. We have to solve for y. So we're going to have to do 2 steps of algebra here. We need to get y by itself. So we're going to put up a quick fence here. Actually, I'm going to move this up here to give us a little bit more room. I'm going to move it up here as 6x minus 3y equals 18. Put up my fence again. So I want to isolate y. So I'm going to get rid of the 6x, the plus 6x. It's positive, right? So we're going to subtract 6x on both sides. That cancels it on the left. Now I have -3y is equal to, now these aren't like terms, so I'm always going to put the x term first because we want it of the form y equals mx plus b first, okay? And don't forget the plus 18. And now I'm going to divide both sides by -3. So we're going to divide this whole side by -3. That's going to cancel that out. I'm going to have y finally. And recall when we're doing this, we just divide each term by -3. So you can do it like this. -6 divided by -3 is going to give me positive 2x. And then this division, 18 divided by -3 is -6. So we finally have our y equals mx plus b. There's our slope. There's our y-intercept. So we'll start by plotting our y-intercept, which is at -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is right here. And a rise of 2 and a run of 1. Rise of 2 and a run of 1. That should be enough dots there. Enough coordinates. Now I should be able to do a half. Jesus, it's hard on here. There. All right, there's my straight line. All right, next page. Let's see what we can do now that we know this. So we're going to have 4 different types of questions, or really just 3. Okay, there's kind of B and C are really similar to each other. So let's first, how could we write an equation? Okay, can we go backwards? What if we don't have the equation? And what if we have a graph? So if we have a graph, it's actually quite easy. We just have to read the graph to find the y-intercept and the slope. So we know it has the form y equals mx plus b, okay? And we need to find this m and we need to find this b. So the b is quite easy. We can see right here at positive 2, b equals 2 here. That's where it crosses the y-axis. And then let's just get our slope going to another point here, maybe right here. It looks good. And we can see that the slope here is down 1/2. So we have -1 plus 2 is our slope. So what did we discover? We discovered that our m is equal to -1 over 2, and our b is equal to +2, and just plug it into your equation. So -1 over 2 is the slope, and my intercept was +2. It's that easy, and we call this, one way to think of it is just a level 1 question. Okay, reading it right off the graph, you're essentially given m and b. Okay. Now let's take a look at a level 2 question. Level 2 question, we're given the slope, so here's our m, but we aren't given the b. Okay, so this is going to be a level 2, and we are given m, and we have to find b in order to get our equation. Okay, so right away we know our m is equal to -1 over 3. Okay, and so we're given this point, and that's a big hint. You need to use this point to determine um, what the b value is, and this is how. So we start with our general equation, y equals mx plus b. Okay, and now we're going to actually substitute these two values for x and y and the m. We're going to do a triple substitution. Here's our x, here's our y. This is a point on the line, okay? So this would be okay to substitute them in. I can put this x right here. I can put this y right here. And then we know our m, which is right here, can go right in for m. So here's the triple substitution. Y is equal to 4. M is equal to -1 over 3. X is equal to 3. And we're still solving for b. Well, we can see a quick shortcut here is 3 divided by 3, cross cancel to get -1. So I'm left with 4 is equal to -1 plus b. And let's solve for b finally by adding 1 to both sides. So 5 is equal to b. Now, a lot of students stop here and think, oh, I'm all done. But remember, we need to find the equation, okay, for in slope-intercept form. So now we know our m and our b, we can simply write our answer in terms of x and y. So now we'll just plug in the slope given to us and the b value we determined by the triple substitution. Okay, so that's a level 2. And another form of level 2 is a little bit more difficult with this particular fraction. We'll see in a second. So this is another level 2. Okay, we're going to be given the m, which is right here. Okay, we're told the m value, and we need to find the b value. Okay, let's check this out. So again, start with our general equation. Y equals mx plus b. M we know is 2 over 3. And if this is our x and this is our y value given to us, we're going to do a triple substitution. X will go here, y is going to go way over here, and my m is going to go right there. So a triple substitution here. Okay, so y is equal to -4. M is 2 over 3. X is equal to 2 and plus b. So now we got to solve for b again. This time we cannot cross cancel here. But you might recall there's a few different strategies when we have a fraction here. So let's just simplify this first. -4 is equal to, we're going to multiply those two. So we're going to get 2 times 2 is 4 over 3 plus b. Now, if you're comfortable with fractions, just keep it as fractions. We're going to subtract that over to the other side. So I'm going to show that method first. So I want to solve for b. So I'm going to subtract 4 over 3. And we're going to subtract 4 over 3 on both sides. Okay, that's going to allow this to cancel. And now we have to figure out what our b value is. Now what I have is -4 subtract 4 over 3. Now you have to remember, subtracting fractions, we need a common denominator, so I'm going to scale this up to 3. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3 on this fraction, so by 3 by 3. And that's going to scale it up to be negative 12 over 3 minus negative 4 over, not a double negative, minus 4 over 3. And that's going to be negative 12 minus 4 is going to give me negative 16 over 3 is equal to b. And that is a reduced fraction. We can leave it as that. That's a perfectly good answer. So now that we know our b, we can write it in the general form with x and y. Y is equal to 2 over 3 times x minus 16 over 3. That's a level 2, and it's a little different because we saw the fraction did not cancel. So it made it a little bit more challenging because we had to remember some fraction notation. All right, final one would be a level 3. So you notice a level 3, we have to find m and we have to find b. Now we're going to find b with the same method, but we don't even have m yet. So we can't go to the method that we did in the last two examples. First, we need m, and that's easy because we have two points. We have two coordinates. So we remember how to do this from before, very first lesson. We've done this lots. As soon as you get 2 points, there's a big hint you're going to be using this equation, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So let's substitute those in. Do my empty brackets and plug in our values, negative 8 minus 4 and 6 minus negative 2. And when we do this, we'll get negative 12 divided by 6 plus 2, which is 8. Let's reduce that to make the math easier. Divide top and bottom by 4 is going to give me negative 3 over 2 is my m. And now we're going to pick either point. Doesn't matter which one we pick. We'll still be able to solve it. So remember, we'll start with our general equation, y equals mx plus b. And then what we're doing is I can substitute either this point or this point in for my x and my y. These numbers are smaller, so I'm going to use that one because it looks a little bit easier. So I'm going to be doing that substitution right now. So technically, I'm going to be substituting x and y into negative 2, 4 is what I'm doing. Okay, I showed that with arrows up above, but this is how I could write it as well. So, and we're going to also substitute m equals negative 3 over 2. So again, the triple substitution. So y is going to become a 4, m is negative 3 over 2, x is negative 2, and plus b we're going to be solving for. Nicely, the 2 divides with the 2, leaving me with just negative 1. Okay, so just negative 1 left over here. So then we'll have 4 is equal to negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Let's subtract the 3 on both sides, and we see that b is equal to 1. Therefore, we can finally write our answer is y equals negative 3 over 2 is the slope we had to determine first, multiplied by x, and then we add b, which is what we determined second. Oh, sorry. We determined what b was. Oh, geez. We determined what b was, which was plus 1. All right, so that's a level 3. So let's recap. This is a big important lesson. It is a longer video lesson. First, we learned this new form called y equals mx plus b. I hope your Math 9 teacher showed this to you before. Then we were able to graph lines super quick by using the y-intercept and then plotting more points with the slope. We also saw a special case if you have to solve for y, you have to do a little bit of algebra. You'll get tons of practice doing that in your practice booklet. After that, what if we didn't have, first we saw if we had a graph, we could create an equation. So different ways of creating an equation given information. So we create an equation here, and then here we are given a point and the slope, so we could determine b to get our equation, okay, which was determined here at the end. Okay, and then we had another version of the level 2 because we had to do a little bit of fraction, addition, subtraction. So you had to bring back some of those skills with a common denominator to add or subtract fractions. And then down here below, we had to do level 3. So we had to determine our slope first using our slope equation for 2 points. We were able to determine it right here. And then we were able to plug in either this point or this point. I chose point number 1 here because it looked like easier math, smaller numbers. And either one, though, would result in the exact same final equation once we solve for b. That's it. That's all. Lots of practice. I believe there's 5 pages in your practice. And make sure you complete all of it because this is what we're going to be using for a majority of a lot of the things moving forward, especially in our next unit, is y equals mx plus b. See you in class. Bye.